Well, welcome back to this second session of an introduction to Generation Self-Employed. In this lesson, what we'd like to do is talk with you about creating your mastermind group. Our quotes for this week are first from Philippians 4:13 and 2 Corinthians 11:9, where Paul writes, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me. When the brethren came from Macedonia, they fully supplied my need." And from Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, "Men take on the nature and the habits and the power of thought of those with whom they associate in a spirit of sympathy and harmony." In writing to the believers in Corinth, Paul reminds them that he was not a burden to them at all. Why? Because the believers in Macedonia fully supplied my need. The Philippians were those believers in Macedonia Paul wrote the Corinthians about, for that is where the city of Philippi was located. The key to understanding the phrase, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me," is to realize that God strengthened Paul through the aid and assistance of other believers. God has designed us to be most fruitful when we work in harmony with other like-minded people. In his seminal book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill recognized this truth and applied it to the work of building a business. In developing the idea of a mastermind group, Hill recognized that when you surround yourself with positive thinking, helpful individuals, you will take on the nature and habits of those people. Our learning objectives for this session are first, to see why people fail. Second, to look at what a mastermind group is and why you need one. Third, to look at the types of online meeting forums that you can use. And fourth, to consider an introduction to social structured learning. Let's look at a recap of last session's assignment. We asked you to watch the introductory video that tells you how to navigate the Generation Self-Employed site and what you can expect to find in the way of resources. We asked you to write a 1 to 3 page memo to yourself about your goals, your expectations, and personal commitment to achieve your goals. In the process of writing this Getting Organized memo, we asked you to create a list of action items that you feel you should undertake. And we asked you to assign yourself due dates for when you will complete them and cross them off your due list. Have you ever asked yourself why people fail? Well, there's an old saying, perhaps you've heard it, if you aim at nothing, you'll settle for anything. People who do not set definite, definable, and measurable goals develop a habit of quitting even before the going gets tough. To become successful, you must discipline yourself to develop a definite, definable purpose. And then you must have the persistence to achieve it. Success comes to those who become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. And so, when you think about it, lack of persistence is something from which we all suffer. And no matter what the endeavor, we all know that to make it to the top, we must have persistence. In speaking about this, the Apostle Paul wrote this in his letter to the Romans, in Romans 5, verses 3 and 4. "And not only this, but we also exalt in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope." Facing your crisis of commitment is something that we all have to learn how to pass through. Have you ever had a crisis of commitment? Simply stated, a crisis of commitment is any event that causes you to think about quitting whatever it is you're doing, or conversely, pressing forward and going through it in order to succeed. People who succeed pass through their crisis of commitment and keep moving forward. In the printed materials, we've provided a YouTube video using a website called Extra Normal to create a little story about this sort of thing. We encourage you to watch it and think about how that might apply to your situation. What we'd like to suggest you do is stop the video now and take a few minutes to digest what we've talked about. Have you ever faced one of these crises of commitment? Do you know anyone who has? What do you think it takes for you personally to persevere in the face of adversity? What we'd like to suggest you do is to find a few friends to discuss this with, be they friends, co-workers, or family.